Hi, this is Mike Langlois, and this is a gameplay video for Fireteam Zero, a cooperative tactical theme game. Today we're going to set the game up for play, and we're also going to do an overview of the rules. Quick standard disclaimer, this is a prototype set, so the final components will be much nicer, and things are subject to change a little bit before the final product is released. Let's get started. Alright, let's start by explaining the components. Each player in the game will choose one of four heroes, each of which fills a certain role within the game. There is a leader, a close combat specialist, a marksman, and a demolitions expert who also serves as the combat medic. There are also two specialists in the game, which I'll talk about a little later. Unfortunately, I don't have the prototype figures for those just yet. Hopefully by the time you see this video, the renders will be up on the Kickstarter page. However, this token represents Henry and this represents Patty. Once the players have chosen their role and their character, they will pull out a deck of action cards. Each hero has a separate deck customized for that playstyle, and when you start Act 1 in an operation, you will choose the 16 base cards. As the game progresses and you go to Act 2 and Act 3, you will receive additional cards to modify your deck with to increase the power of each character. These cards are made up of action cards, which I will show a little closer in the video. But these cards are made up of two parts. The top is an attack, and I'll get into more detail about how these work in the combat video. But for now, it's enough to know that the attack is what a character will be doing on their turn. The bottom half of the card is a reaction, which will allow them to do a variety of things, assisting other players with attacks, healing, granting special moves, or dealing with enemies, either providing cover fire, suppression fire, those kinds of things. And each of the reactions will tell you when they can be played. So you'll go ahead and set up a deck of these cards for each of the four characters. After you set up your decks, you will choose a focus. Each character comes with 6 focus cards in the base set. The expansions and some of the additional packs contain more. You'll choose one focus for your character. So in this particular case, this is Frank, so he'll pick, let's say, Sniper, which allows him to fire farther. So that card will go out in front of him. He'll get one card for a focus in Act 1, and in Act 2 he'll get to choose 2 to play at once, and then in Act 3 he'll choose 3. So he'll have 3 focus cards up and active during that mission. The focus cards give you a lot of customization to the characters, and they improve the functionality of whatever particular part of the playstyle you like, and you can build certain types of gameplay by using multiple focus cards at the same time. Alright, after the players have chosen their decks and their focus, you will spawn the monsters. Each mission will tell you how many and what kind of monsters to spawn. This is Mission 1, or Act 1 in Children of Typhon. So this is River Crossing. It has 8 of the Children of Typhon minions, the corrupted animals. What you'll do is set these 8 out, and you'll roll a 12-sided die to show where they spawn, and you will spawn them until the pool is depleted. So all 8 minions will be out on the board, as you see here. After spawning the monsters, you'll lay out the monster card, which I'll show in more detail during the combat video. But this card will let you check the stats of the monsters to see how difficult they are to kill and whatever special abilities they may have. Next, you'll lay out the objective cards. Each act will have a certain number of objectives that you need to meet before you can complete the mission. Each objective will be laid out on a card on the table, and they will tell you things like find the source of the infection or repair and refuel the ferry for this particular act. Next, you'll lay out the recon deck. There will be 12 cards, one for each spawn point. And as you go through the game, you'll be checking the spawn points for solutions to your objectives. So the recon deck will contain both the answers to these objectives. So in the case of find the infection, you may find something like an infected well, or repair and refuel the ferry, you'll find fuel or parts. And you'll also find events in here where investigating a spawn point will trigger an event of some kind to happen. Next, you'll pull out the twist cards for the monsters. Now, all of the artifacts are still connected to all of the monsters that they create. As the monsters encounter resistance, as your team comes in and begins killing them and moving through their territory, the artifact will react by increasing their power. This is represented by twist cards. As you complete each round, the terror track will advance one space. When you reach certain spaces, you will draw a twist card and place it on the track. And this is going to grant all of the creatures certain special abilities. As you move through, you'll get more and more twists. All the twists will operate at the same time, so they stack. So when you get towards the end of the mission, if you haven't completed it by the third or fourth twist, then you're going to be in trouble. So the last piece here is the lucky coin. The lucky coin represents your success during the mission. As a player gets downed, the coin will turn to the other face, to tails. If you are downed a second time, you will lose the game. When you complete a mission objective, you will be able to turn this coin back face up. So you can push your luck in the game. As you continue, if you were to flip the coin, you may still try certain risky things to grab an objective, or you may play more cautiously to try and keep that coin from being flipped again and losing the game. All right, the last component I want to talk about is the map. There are each act has a battlefield, which is a 2x2 grid of map tiles, which we call map sectors. Each map sector shows the locations on it via these grid lines, and the grid lines change based on the terrain and the use for that map. The core game comes with 8 double-sided map tiles. They're 12 inches by 12 inches, so these are a little bit smaller. The actual tiles would be about 1 inch larger in every dimension. And they'll represent 16 different faces to use in the various acts. The map tiles themselves will tell you where the spawn markers were placed, and the act instructions will tell you where the start and end location for the map is. So in this particular case, river crossing, the heroes will start in this location, and once they complete their objectives, they will exit in this location here. There is terrain represented on the map tiles. In this particular outdoor set, there is difficult terrain, which are squares which cost more movement to enter, such as these forest squares. There are also impassable terrain, like this river, or this pond, that you can shoot through, but you can't move through. There's also cover, which will give you a bonus from being attacked, and other types of terrain that are represented throughout the game. So once you've set the map up and gone ahead and placed your tokens and spawned, you're ready to play. All right, let's talk about the structure of gameplay. So there are 3 phases to every round of Fireteam Zero. There is the tactics phase, the hero phase, and the threat phase, where the monsters get to take their actions. I'll go through each one of these briefly. The tactics phase is where players can play a tactical response card from their hand if they have one. These cards are very powerful, so only one hero can play a card in each tactics phase. After the tactics phase is played, heroes will refill their hands up to the hand limit, except for the player who played the tactical response, which is sort of the downside to playing them. They are very powerful and they can reshape the battlefield to your advantage. However, the player that used that ability is going to enter the next round with fewer cards, making him a bit more vulnerable. At the end of the draw phase, or the draw portion of the tactics phase, players are then going to move the start player token, and I'm using the skin fetch from the fetch family of monsters as my start player token, but there's actually a token that you will pass in the core set. When you play your first turn, the heroes will pick a start player, and then play will move clockwise around the table. Once the game is in play, at the end of the tactics phase, the start player will move clockwise. The next phase is the hero phase. This is where heroes will get to take their moves and their actions. By default, the heroes will receive 2 moves, which will allow them to change locations. In this particular case, this is a clear grass location, so I can move once and then again twice. Or if I'm going into difficult terrain, I'll use both of my moves to move into this difficult terrain. You can also play a single action. An action can be to attack, which you'll play cards out of your hand, as many as you like, as long as they're the same damage type, or you can use your action to investigate a spawn point. Now, in order to solve your draw recon cards and solve your objectives, the players will take their actions as they move around the table. The specialists do not have their own actions. Instead, they are moved with the players. So if Frank were to move here, he can choose to take a specialist with him. And so that heroes can place the specialist on the map to get take advantage of their abilities. A specialist's abilities can be used if you share a location with them or if you're adjacent. So if you were in any of these spaces, you would also be able to take advantage of Patty's ability. So after the hero phase comes the threat phase. I've moved the board around a little bit to help illustrate. The first thing that you'll do is advance the terror track. The token will move to the next space, and you'll notice that some of these spaces have instructions to draw a twist card. So in this case, this space says draw first twist. So we'll move here, and as instructed, we will draw a twist card and place it in this first spot. This one is entangling, which says heroes may not move out of a location which contains a monster. The standard default rule is that heroes can leave a location with a monster as long as they're not outnumbered. Entangling makes that a lot tougher. So monsters will now take advantage of any twists that have been revealed at the beginning of the threat phase. The next thing that happens is monster activation. You'll activate each monster in turn, and the monsters will have default movement and attacks listed on their card. So in this case, these corrupted animals have a move of 2, and their attack is specified here, which is 2 attack die, and they use the brawl damage type. Before a monster activates, you'll roll the monster die. I'm just using a blank die with stickers on it. It has blank sides. It has a special, which allows the monster to use its special ability, and it also has a movement, which can make them move a little bit faster. So in this particular case, we'll roll, and let's say that we get a blank, so it will take its default attack. If it did rolled movement, it would get 1 extra move, and if it rolled special, of course, it would, in this case, get 3 attack die instead of 2. So the monster now is going to take its default actions. It's going to move twice. Whenever you activate a monster, the target that it's going to go for is going to be the closest hero. In the case where there's a tie, monsters will attempt to go towards the hero that has the start player token. So in this case, 1, 2 spaces to Frank, 1, 2 spaces to this group here, and 1, 2, 3 spaces here. So between these two groups, they're equidistant. Frank is a start player, so he's going to go that direction. So the monster is going to move 1, 2. If the monster had rolled an additional movement, it would still stop here. They will stop moving as soon as they can attack. These are range 0, basically close combat monsters. So as soon as he reaches the space, he's going to stop moving. Then he's going to perform his attack. He's going to roll 2 attack die. And in this case, he would do 1 point of damage to Frank. Whenever heroes take damage, they will discard cards from their hand in order to avoid being hit by the monster. If you are hit, you are downed, just like getting shot in a battlefield. This is not a matter of accumulating damage slowly over time. If you're hit, you're going to drop. So in this case, he's going to only need to discard 1 card as his choice, and he'll be fine. Now, if I were unable to discard a card, if I had no hand, then he would take the point of damage, he would get hit rather, and he would go down. In this case, a player going down will cause the terror track to advance again. Also, since I am the only hero in a space with a specialist, I'm leaving the specialist alone in this space. That will cause the terror track to advance again. All of the monsters will activate in turn, dealing their damage and doing all of the effects that they do. At the end of the monster activation, then we're going to respawn any monsters that were killed during the hero phase or as retaliation during the attack phase. So in this case, I've got 2 monsters in the spawn pool. So I'm going to roll the spawn die. I get a 2, so this monster is going to spawn here. And then I roll a second time and I get an 8. So this monster is going to spawn here. And then that round is over. The next round will start up with a tactics phase and will continue through the game. So that is all 3 phases in a nutshell. Winning the game means going through the rounds, completing your objectives, and then finishing the game in the exit space for this particular act. The win conditions can vary based on the mission you're playing, but you need to have all of your characters in the exit space in this act. At the end of the hero phase, if they're all here and there are no monsters in the location with you, then you win this. You win the game and you proceed to the next act in the operation. So that's the rules overview. I will post some additional videos, one showing combat in more depth, and then another one showing the objective system and a little bit about how that works. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.